All right, good afternoon and welcome to CTM Academy. This is actually a five-part series, and this is day one. So welcome. We should actually have a pretty decent sized crowd today. Looks like people are still dialing in. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into this. But before I do, I wanted to give you all the link to where you can download the slide deck that I'll be using. I just posted that, it's all panelists, all attendees in the chat. So everyone should be able to grab that. Let me real quick change my screen to show you where that will direct you to. Here you go. So it'll take you to this part in our support hub. And we have the actual slide deck we'll be working off of right here if you did want to download that for yourself. So again, that is in your chat. You can grab that now or even after this presentation if you wanted to revisit some of the content. All right, with that, let me switch back over to my main slide deck. Looks like we're good. All right, let's go ahead and begin. Again, welcome to today's live workshop. This is Intro to Call Tracking Metrics Part 1. The webinar today is going to be, typically it goes for about an hour to an hour and a half, really depending on how many questions we have. So with that, we do make sure that every effort was made to ensure that the information in this presentation is accurate and up to date. I'm going to kind of fly through these. We do have a few course requirements. I really think of them more as suggestions than requirements. But one is, that you log into your Call Tracking Metrics account. If you don't have an account with us, you could actually head over to our plans page and get signed up, and I think it's like less than 5-minute process. But if you just want to sit back, watch, and learn, please by all means do that. We would also recommend if you have 2 monitors that you set them up so that you can view the presentation on one screen, see what I'm doing, and then have your Call Tracking Metrics account up from the other screen. Let's see, for audio issues, everyone's microphones are going to be off. If you do have any questions, you can enter them into the question or chat box, and I'd be happy to address them. We'll actually have times designated for addressing any questions. So let's continue on. So again, yeah, if you don't have a plan with us, no problem. You could head over here to get started, or feel free to just sit back and watch. So today's agenda, we're going to be going over call tracking metrics, really core concepts. So with that, we're going to look at things like the tracking code, tracking numbers, receiving numbers, target numbers, tracking sources. We're actually going to do a few workshops. We'll actually go in and buy some numbers. We're going to talk about porting numbers. We're talking about vanity numbers. We're going to test the DNI to see if it's swapping. And yeah, at the end, we're going to put it all together and actually do it. So it's a little bit of show and tell mix. And with that, my name is Jessica Michaels. I'm our Google guru and product coach here at Call Tracking Metrics. This is, I believe, my 6th year at the company. So yeah, that's me. I started out in marketing here and actually moved over to the product side. It's my adventure here at CTM. So if you've ever attended any of my webinars before, I like to make sure that everyone can both hear and see me. So if you can do that, I believe there's reaction things on your Zoom toolbar. If you can hear and see me, will you, I think it's like what do they do, a clap or a thumbs up? See if we can get some of those just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Oh, there, I see hands going up. All right. Yeah, all right, hands are going up. Great, great. Okay, we actually have a pretty decent crowd. So just to make sure everyone knows where the question box is. In the question box, why don't you tell me, let's see, I usually do things like summer vacations, but those are pretty canceled. How about where you're dialing in from? I am dialing in from home. Call Tracking Metrics has been remote for, I believe this is our 20th week, as crazy as that is. But home for me is Serona Park, Maryland. And let's see where our attendees, looks like we have someone from Ohio, welcome. Oh, Orange County, California, welcome. Okay, it's actually like 20 of us. So, oh, we got Dallas, Texas, welcome, welcome. home office in Phoenix, Arizona. Ooh, it says 110 out there today. I'm not gonna lie, it's been pretty hot over here on the East Coast as well. It's been a scorcher. Oh, some other people from Maryland. Welcome, welcome. All right, well, it looks like we're in good shape. It looks like everyone has discovered where the question box is, and everyone can both see and hear me. So let's go ahead, or just for fun, why don't I just say hi? This is me. Fun backgrounds. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Okay, so first section, we're going to be talking about our core concepts. So really, this is meant to be as if you've never used call tracking metrics before. We're going to start out with our most basic concepts and then build them out over the next, we're doing 3 classes this week and then 2 next week to kind of spread it all out. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. So I think a good way to think about our core concepts is to think about them like the puzzle pieces needed to configure your call tracking metrics account. So one of the things that can be a little bit confusing is with our system, it's not necessarily the order in which you put things together that matters. What really matters is, like in the end with a puzzle, is that everything is lined up and connected. So we're going to talk about tracking numbers, tracking source, tracking code, target numbers, receiving numbers. Those all can be built in any order as long as they're all just connected. So let's continue on. Oh, I actually have a few quick videos that we're going to watch. They're, I think, like under 3 minutes long, but they really help introduce our concepts. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
This is Michelle. Michelle is a successful marketer. Michelle is successful because she has a secret weapon fueling her advertising. She knows exactly which advertising channels are bringing in the most leads and generating the most sales. She uses call tracking metrics. Here's how it works. Michelle advertises in many places like online ads, radio ads, and email campaigns. Call Tracking Metrics assigns a unique tracking number to each individual advertising channel, allowing her to measure which advertising channels are driving phone calls and sales. Michelle has a budget for each marketing channel. Call Tracking measures the quantity and quality of calls for each advertising channel and provides insight into which marketing channels are generating the most phone calls and sales. Using this data, Michelle adjusts her marketing budget to intelligently invest in the highest performing campaigns. Call tracking is quick and easy to set up. First, you'll need to purchase your tracking numbers. Tracking numbers are available in over 70 countries in both local and toll-free. CTM offers vanity numbers as well. Next, you'll need to select the receiving number, which is where you want the tracking number to ring. Tracking numbers can be routed to your desk phone, your cell phone, or a call queue. It can be set up to ring specific phone lines in a sequence or all at the same time. Lastly, you'll need to assign a tracking source to the tracking number. If you can put a phone number on it, Call Tracking Metrics can track it. Installing CTM's tracking code allows the phone number on your website, known as the target number, to be dynamically replaced with a tracking number. The tracking numbers swap based on how a visitor comes to your website. Call Tracking Metrics is also a Google partner and has direct integrations with Google Analytics and AdWords, so your call data can be sent into Analytics as events and calls into AdWords as conversions. Call Tracking Metrics provides all the reporting you need to make the most of every call and increase your return on investment. Stop wondering which advertising channels are converting into sales and profit and start tracking them today. Get started and discover how Call Tracking Metrics can transform communication into powerful intelligence.
All right, well, hopefully everyone enjoyed that quick video. But what it did do successfully is it introduced, our terminologies we're going to be covering. We have the tracking number, target number, receiving number, tracking source, and tracking code. So let's go explore those a little bit more. So at first we have tracking numbers. So tracking numbers are most commonly used to track and attribute activities such as phone calls, text messages, form submissions, and online chats to individual marketing campaigns. And it also can be assigned to an individual as a personal or direct line. So there's lots of different ways we can use our tracking numbers. So one of the most common questions we get around tracking numbers is how many tracking numbers do I need to accurately track my my efforts. So in order to determine how many numbers we're going to need, we're going to first have to have a quick lesson on tracking sources. So we have two different types of tracking sources. It's going to be offsite and onsite. So here's an example of an offsite tracking source. So these sources are going to be, I think of it literally as anywhere off of your website. So sometimes those are going to be things like, printed flyers, TV ads, radio, billboards, really anywhere that is not on your website. So for example, we have John Doe over here. He has a radio ad and one print ad. So he would buy one number for each of those because those are off-site. So we wouldn't be attributing a session or any campaign information to those. But then we have on-site tracking. So with on-site tracking, it's going to be very similar to what Google Analytics is doing, and we're going to be able to attach that to the phone call. So typical online sources, or very common ones, are going to be sources like Google Ads, Google Organic, Bing, Facebook, Facebook Paid, email marketing, etc. So really anywhere where somebody's coming from the website or from the internet to your web page. So now we have Jane Doe over here. She has an average of 200 daily visitors to her website from Google Ads. So an additional 400 visitors to her website through links and email campaigns. So what she would need to do is buy 100 tracking numbers for Google Ads and 20 for her email campaigns. So we actually would recommend one tracking number per 20 daily visitors to each channel. So we're going to visit that a little bit more throughout today and actually throughout the week. But with online, the rule of thumb is going to be one tracking number for every 20 daily visitors per source. Okay. So that's going to bring us to the likelihood score. So what we want is a really high likelihood, which we can actually see here. So here we can see, 99.29% likelihood. Now what that's referencing is how likely this session was performed by this caller. Now, if you see your likelihood is low, that's going to mean that that 1 to 20 ratio is diluted. So if you're doing maybe 1 to 100, you might see that you have a likelihood of maybe, we'll say 65. And that's just saying that we're 65% confident that it was this session. So we work primarily with marketing agencies and marketers. So for them, we really want to make sure that we're providing them the accurate campaign information so that they can optimize it. So we're going to be able to show you the likelihood score. It'll be right here in a quick view. It'll also be in the expanded view of the visitor detail. So we want to have high likelihood scores. With a marketing background, I always like my data to be really clean and trustworthy. So low likelihood scores will lead to, just dirtier data. Okay, so we're going to have a little pop quiz here. It says you're a marketer and we're looking to add call tracking to our toolkit. So first we need to determine how many tracking numbers we need, right? So here's what it might look like inside of your analytics. So here we have, our printed flyers, radios, organic, Facebook, TV, billboards, all of these are off-site. They are off of your website. So you would actually only need one tracking number for any of those, while for the ones over to the right, which are online, on-site sources, these ones we're going to try to do 1 to 20. So with that, I have a pop quiz. Okay. I believe you all can see this. Hopefully you can see both screens at the same time. But given the information above, how many tracking numbers should you purchase for all of your offline sources? So would that be 1? Would it be 6, 14, or 12 or 21? Okay, I'll give you guys just a minute. These are all anonymous, so you don't have to worry about getting them wrong if you're not sure. So the second one is going to be a little bit more tricky. It says for your on-site tracking source of Google Ads, how many tracking numbers would you need to achieve a good accuracy score? And the accuracy score and likelihood score are essentially the same thing. Would it be 500, 125, 250, or 75? And then we have another question here, which says, how many tracking numbers should you purchase for all 3 of your Facebook tracking sources? So we have Facebook offline, and we have Facebook ads and Facebook organic. So I see some answers coming in. I'll give you guys just another second to fill them out. And I'm gonna have to do some quick math to make sure I got the answer right. Okay, so let's take a look at our results. Looks like we did pretty good, All right, let's take a look and poll, share results. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. So for the first one, how many would you purchase for all of your offsite tracking sources? Looks like 63% of us got it right. That would be 6 tracking numbers. So you would just want 1 for each source. It looks like we had a couple people say 1. You could technically share 1 for all of those, but then you wouldn't be able to decipher if that was from a printed flyer or from the radio or Facebook, because those would all be grouped together. So by giving them each their own individual one, we're going to know that, that call came from, a radio ad. Okay, for the second one, this is where we have to do some math. For on-site source of Google Ads, how many tracking numbers would we need? So we have 5,000 daily sessions, so we divide that by 20, and I believe that is 250, which it looks like the majority got right as well. Good job, everyone. You could do 500, that's an overachiever. Obviously I wouldn't want to oversell you, but 250 should get you that, that perfect accuracy. All right, now this one's the trickier one. How many tracking numbers would you need for all 3 of your Facebook sources? Actually, it looks like 25% of you got it right. It would be 246. So for this one, what you would do is you would add up your 1,500 and your 3,400, divide that by 20, and then add 1 to it, because the offsite one would be 1. So with that, that would be 246 tracking numbers. All right. So hopefully that helps explain how we decide how many tracking numbers we would need. Okay. It's not letting me advance my slides. Come on. All right, here we go. All right, so next we're going to talk about the target number. So the target number, come on. Sorry, I don't. Next slide. Come on. I'm sorry about this. All right, here we go. I had to fight for it. So target numbers are the phone numbers on your website that can be dynamically replaced with a tracking number. So what this would be, you already have your website with a phone number on it. That is going to be your target number. That's what our tracking code is going to look for, to dynamically replace that number with one of our tracking numbers. So with, oh my gosh, hopefully it doesn't fight me all day. So we have 2 different types of target numbers in our setup. The default is going to be phone match. Phone match is great because it's going to be the most forgiving. So as we can see here, there's all these different formats. It's going to recognize the number no matter what format you have. While exact match is going to be a lot more strict. It's only going to swap replace out that target number for a tracking number if it's an exact match. So it would have to be, spelled out completely and all the same, punctuation. So if you have a lot of phone numbers on your page, exact match might be nice. It's going to give you some more control. But phone match, on the other hand, I find very nice because it's going to be more forgiving. You can format them different ways and not have to worry about it not swapping. So I would say start with phone match, which is going to be the default. If you're not having any issues, then don't really play with exact match. Exact match is most commonly used for things like vanity numbers. So that is the target number. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the tracking source. Lots of terminology for us today. So tracking sources are the marketing channel that the tracking number will be attributed to. In some cases, the tracking sources are used for non-marketing purposes, like personal lines, like I mentioned before. A single tracking source can have one or more tracking numbers assigned to it, but a tracking number can only be assigned to a single tracking source, which I totally get it. All these terms sound a lot alike. So we're actually going to view all this in the product too. So we're kind of defining it first, and then we'll be demoing it soon. So the tracking sources are where you're going to program the tracking number to swap for the target number. So it's only going to swap if it's for an on-site source. So it's going to have to take place on your website. And to help explain it a little bit more, I have another video. I think these are great for illustrating some complex concepts. So let's take a quick look at tracking sources.
Welcome to CallTrackingMetrics training video. In this workshop, we're going to be explaining how tracking sources are configured. A tracking source refers to the advertising channel that you want to track and attribute call, text, and form submissions to. If you can put a phone number on it, CallTrackingMetrics can track it. A tracking source can be assigned to any advertising channel. For example, common tracking sources are Google AdWords, printed flyers, billboards, and organic traffic. There are two types of tracking sources: off-site and on-site tracking sources. Off-site tracking sources are your traditional advertising methods, like signs, billboards, newspapers, and radio ads. TV ads would also be an off-site tracking source. On-site tracking sources. On-site traffic is exactly what it sounds like. It's advertising that takes place online, and session data will be attributed to the call. Common on-site tracking sources are Google AdWords, Facebook, Bing ads, and organic traffic. On-site tracking sources use dynamic number insertion, which is commonly referred to as DNI. Dynamic number insertion will replace the phone number on your website with a tracking number based on how the user came to the page. On-site tracking sources will trigger the swapping of the phone number's base on either the referring URL or by the landing page. Here's some common examples of referring URL triggers. Referring triggers are any site that directs traffic to your site. Landing page triggers. The number will dynamically swap based on defined characteristics on the landing page. Landing page triggers are commonly defined by UTM tags and regular expression. Thanks for watching.
All right. And again, if anybody wanted a copy of this slide deck, I did put that in the chat, as well as these videos as individuals, and this whole slide deck can also be found in our support hub. So if you ever wanted to revisit them. Okay. So when it comes to tracking sources, we have kind of two ways that you can make them. I would always suggest starting with our presets. There's going to be pre-configured sources for you. So in a way, we've already done the work. All you have to do is select them from a drop-down. And we are always trying to add the most common ones. So last I checked, I think we had like 35 or so. But you know, it's going to be things like Google Ads, Google Organic, Bing Paid, Bing Organic, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, like all of the basic ones. But of course, you might have, you know, a custom use case that you want to be swapping for. So absolutely, we can create custom sources as well. So when it comes to creating your own tracking source, there's really 3 steps to it. The first one, real easy, you're going to name that source. So something easily identifiable. It could be, you know, what is it, July? It could be July newsletter, something like that. We're going to set the type. So is this going to be on-site or off-site? Are we going to be dynamically swapping or not? And then there's going to be the source trigger. So if it is on-site, we're going to have to say when it should swap for it. So did they come organically? Did they come from, you know, Facebook? We'll define that. So it's what tells the system under what conditions it should swap for that number. Okay. So again, we have on-site, that's going to be anywhere on your website. So we will be swapping that number out and replacing it with one of our tracking numbers. And then off-site is going to be where no swapping will occur. So if we think back to our other example or that pop quiz, so with Facebook, it actually has multiple sources. So there's Facebook which would be an offsite one, and that would be in your general Facebook page listing. Because our tracking code can't live there, we have no way to track that session inside of Facebook, which would be really cool if we could, but it just doesn't work that way. But if somebody were to click one of your Facebook posts that took you to, took the user to your website, now then we could swap and say, that was a Facebook referral, or if it was a Facebook ad, we would swap accordingly that way. So all the swapping will need to take place, on your actual website and landing pages. All right, so that's going to bring us to our tracking source conditions. So this is going to be, we actually used to call these triggers. So you might see the lingo both ways, but the tracking source condition is going to say, if they came from Facebook, then swap for this number. If they came from Google Ad, then swap for this number. It could also be based on where they land. So it could be for specific landing pages you want it to swap. Okay, and in order to prevent overlapping rules, the tracking source position is going to determine the order that sources are prioritized. So the lower the number, the higher the priority. So something like Google Ads and Google Organic have different positions. So Google Ads is going to be in position 1, and we're going to be looking for a landing page with a GCL ID, Google's auto tagging. Now, if for Google Organic, for example, that's going to be somebody that's referred from, Google search. So technically, a Google paid one is also referred from Google search. So what we do is we put that in a higher position because that's going to look for a GCL ID, which an organic session will not have. So by saying check for this first, that's not there, okay, then it would default to organic. Now, if they were on the same position, they would swap interchangeably, which I believe is the example that I gave here. Yep. So position 1, while this one is in position 3. So we're going to be looking for the auto tagging tag. And then in this case, we're looking for a referral from Google search. So position is important. But again, that's why the presets are really great, because it's going to have all of that pre-configured for you. Okay, so with the sources, this is also where you would select your attribution model. Something that's kind of fun is you don't have to have an account-wide attribution model. Each source can have its own attribution model. Inside of CallTrackingMetrics, we offer 2 different types. We have first touch and last touch attribution. So first touch is going to cookie that visitor for the first way they came to your website. So if somebody comes to your website the first time through something like Facebook paid, they click a Facebook ad, come to your website, we're going to swap for that Facebook paid number. Now, if they came back a second time, say a week later through Google Organic with first touch, they would still see that Facebook number because it's going to give credit to the first way they came in. While with last touch, it's going to show the most recent way that the user got to your site. So every business has a different model that they like to follow. My personal go-to and rule of thumb would be I like to do my paid sources as last touch, and then any of my organic types leave as first touch, just so that the paid campaign gets all the credit. Okay, so next we're going to be talking about routing options, and I apologize if you can hear my roommate barking. The joys of working at home. Okay, so we have a bunch of different ways that we can route these calls. So we have receiving numbers that we can route to, voice menus, call queues. We can actually route directly to something in our system called the smartphone. The cell phone, and then we have smart routers. So we're gonna briefly touch on all of these. So a receiving number is going to be any phone number that you already have out there right now. So it could be your cell phone, it could be your desk phone, it could be your home line. We could actually ring all 3 of those at the same time. I like to think of receiving numbers as they're the end point. So our numbers need to ring to somewhere. Where's that going to be? It could be a receiving number. We could have them point to voice menus. We're going to be talking about voice menus in great depth in tomorrow's class, but voice menus or IVRs is something else people call them. They're going to direct the person to a message. If you've ever called CallTrackingMetrics, we use these. It's going to say, you know, press 1 for sales, 2 for support, and it's going to help guide that caller to where they need to go. And again, we're going to cover that in great detail tomorrow. And these are both available on all of our plans. Next, we have call queues. Now, queues are only available on a marketing plan or higher, but queues are used to route callers to a group of agents. If no agent is available to answer the phone, the caller will be asked to hold. We can play custom hold music. We can have hold messages that can play. We even have some AI that's tied in, so we could even say your position in line or give you the option to have an automated callback. We're going to talk about queues in great detail. Let's see, next Monday's class. So if you're interested in that, come back. And then we have the soft phone. The soft phone is going to be, it really just stands for software telephone. So that would ring inside of your CallTrackingMetrics system. So it would ring, you know, right into it. And with that, all you need, you know, is a strong internet connection. And we're going to be looking at that a little bit today as well. And then we have our smart router. Now, this is also only available on the marketing plan and higher, but the smart router will allow you to direct calls based on information that is immediately gathered about them. So if it's a repeat caller, maybe it's their location, their caller ID, what web page they were on, you might want to route them to different departments. So we'll be talking about smart router on Monday's class as well, but they're really cool. One of the ways I like to explain them or a use case is for, say you're a travel agency and on your website you have, you know, different specialties. You have your cruises, you have your Mount Everest excursions, you have helicopter traveling. So based on whatever page you are on, when you place that call, we could actually route you to that specialist. So you're on the cruise page, we're going to send you to the cruising specialist. You're on our helicopter tours page, we're going to send you to the helicopter tour specialist. So we can do some really cool things with smart routers. Okay, so that's just a quick high-level overview of some of the ways that we can route our calls. So now let's actually change gears a little bit and let's take a look at these concepts we covered inside of the system. I see somebody chatted in. We'll be able to see this recording. Yes, absolutely. I'll post this in our support hub. It takes a little while to download. I'll try to get it up by the end of today. But there is an older version of it available now, which I can show you what that is as well. So let me switch my screen. Okay, can everyone see inside of the call log? One thing, I really like Zoom. It just sometimes I can't tell if I'm sharing properly. Okay, here we go. So this is inside of my demo account, Coco Loco. The first thing I usually like to tell people is we have a few different kind of custom options for the individual. So I like dark mode, not everyone does, but if we come up here, we have dark mode and light mode. So some quick, easy ways to, you know, change your preferences. We also have 2 different navigations. This is our new nav, which I would recommend for everyone to be using. As we're adding new features and functionalities, they're all being added to our newer interface rather than our old interface. So for the purpose of today, I'm going to demo in the new nav to help encourage people to use it because it's actually, I think, much better. Okay. So here we are in this. And if you ever wanted to switch between the navs, that would be right here. So I can switch back to classic, and that would be all of the big, but we're gonna go to the side. Okay, so we're gonna look at tracking numbers first. So to get there, I'm going to go to my numbers tab and then tracking numbers. So here I can see the different tracking numbers that I already have purchased. So this is going to be the number itself. Here's where the source is going to be assigned to it. So as you see, each tracking number will have a source assigned to it. This is going to tell us the routing. So when somebody dials this number here, we know that it's actually going to ring to my queue, my test queue, or in this case, it's going to ring to the sales queue. For any online source, we're going to be looking for that target number to replace, right? So for this number to be shown, we'll be replacing one of these 3 phone numbers. So one number can actually swap for multiple numbers. It'll actually show you where it's going to ring as well. Okay. If we would actually click into here, this is where it kind of comes like puzzle pieces where you can put things together in different ways. Here's where we can assign dialed routing. So here's some of the different options we have. We can assign text routing. We can assign the source and target numbers here. We can also do that in pretty much any other setting as well. So just a quick jump to of how we can edit the tracking number. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the target number. So to get there, we'll come back to our nav and we're going to look at the target number. So these are pretty easy to set up. And I like these kind of like home views of these settings, because here we can see these are the target numbers. It's going to show us our match type, and then it's going to show us all the different tracking numbers that are assigned to it. Now, if I wanted to see more information, I could click edit. And again, so this is the target number, and here's where I can see all of the tracking numbers that are assigned to that target number. So again, I can assign them here. I can actually do that under the target number. It doesn't really matter where you do it, just in the end, every tracking number that's an on-site one should have a target number assigned to it. Okay, so those are pretty straightforward. And this is also where the match type would be. Somebody says, very hard to read the screen. Maybe if I go into light mode, does that help? Too small. Am I zoomed out? Well, I think I was zoomed out. I can zoom in too. There we go. But I like dark mode. We'll go back to dark. There we go. Hopefully that helps. Better. Let's go one more. Okay. So next we're going to look at the tracking source. So let's go to our numbers tab again, and then tracking sources. So over here is where we have new ones, and here we can see all the ones that I already have set up, as well as, again, it gives you that nice high level view where I can see, you know, this is the name of it, this is the position it's in, the type is on site, where we can set the attribution. But let's go ahead and create a new one. So like I said before, we have our presets. So I would always recommend trying to start with these. And these are just going to be pre-configured sources. So if it's something like being paid, for example, I can select that. It's going to automatically name it, put a description in. It's going to set it to on-site because we're going to want to do that dynamic swapping. And then if we come down to the conditions, this is going to say under what circumstance should I be replacing this number. So in this case, we're looking for, it has a little bit of regular expression, but again, that's why it's nice that these are presets. But this is basically going to say if the UTM has the source of Bing or the medium of CPC, the pipe means or, so it's going to say these two things or the MS Click ID, which is Microsoft's offline conversions. So for something easy like Facebook, in that case, we're going to be looking for a referring site. We're going to say we should swap for this if the person came from Facebook. You can see the landing page is going to be empty because we're just going to say they came from here. So let's see, let's show another example. So with Google Ads, in this case, we're going to be looking for the Google Click Identifier. So that would just be the GCL ID. And this .* means anything following. So again, we have lots of presets for you, but if you didn't want to use one of our presets, you could always create your own. So let me actually back out of this. Go back over. And then I might want to name this my demo source. I'm super detailed with these. I always recommend putting descriptions in. Now, when you first start with us, it might not seem as important, but as your account builds out over time, you might start with maybe 5 sources, but then at the end of the year, you have something like, maybe 100 to like some of our clients have 500. So you're going to want them to be as easily identifiable as possible. So this is a really bad example of not making it really specific. But if this was offsite, that's really all I have to do. I'm just labeling that the source. If it's on-site, then I'm going to have to say under what conditions do I want this to swap. It could be a referring site. Maybe, I want one for, I don't even know. Is it Angie's List? Say angieslist.com or something like that. So that easy. And if it's for, maybe it's a certain landing page. So I see someone, I had a question. So for example, for Facebook, we need a specific tracking number and then mark it as on site. Yes. So depending on how granular you want your information, yes. So we have a few different Facebook presets. So here we have Facebook. This is going to be someone who clicks from Facebook to your website. So we would swap that as a Facebook referral. Then if we come here, we have Facebook page. Now this would be off-site because your actual listing on Facebook, our tracking code's not there, so we have no way to put a session to that. So if somebody sees that number, it should only be seen there. So we'd say that's, from Facebook, from your page. And then we have another one for Facebook paid. And for this, we'd be looking for the tagging of the source of Facebook. So hopefully that helps explain it. Which again, we're going to revisit these concepts repeatedly throughout the 5 days so that we're all real comfortable with it. So the next thing we're going to look at is receiving numbers. So to get there, I'm going to go to my numbers tab and receiving numbers. Now again, each setting has like its home page here. So we can see where it would ring to. Again, really nice to put the descriptions in here, because if I just saw that, I wouldn't know this is, my direct line, but now I know this is my direct line, this is Jason's direct line. And then it'll show you what tracking numbers are actually assigned to this, and then how many calls that they've had. So if we wanted to edit a receiving number or create a new one, real easy, you're just putting the phone number in here. It could be, I think we have 70 different countries at least that we could route to. So it's going to default to US, but by all means, it doesn't have to be US. I think we actually have some people from Canada here today. Actually, we're supposed to have some people from Australia, but they said it was 4 a.m. their time. So from here, yep, you would actually just be putting it in, and then, do we assign the number? Nope. Oh, so here's where we actually say if we want it to ring directly to a person. But yeah, so in this case, I would put this as a receiving number, and then I would have it a tracking number route to this, and it would ring that line directly. Okay, so that is our kind of show and tell of inside the app. I've created a completely empty account where we're going to go through and build these. So, but before we do that, I have a little bit more slides to show. Okay, let's move on. Here we go. Oh, tracking code. Tracking code, so important, right? So the tracking code or tracking script, we kind of use it interchangeably. It's really going to be what fuels the dynamic number swapping. So it's what's going to identify the target number on your page. It's going to identify where the person came from, and then perform the actual swapping itself. So let's take another look. Okay, so what does it do? The tracking code is going to look for the target number indicated and change it to a tracking number if the visitor comes through one of your sources. It's going to collect data about the visitor and store it for reporting. Where is it located? It's under our numbers tab and then tracking code. What does it look like? So every tracking code is unique. They're all going to look very similar, but right here is going to be the unique account ID. So if you're on one of our agency style plans and you have, say, maybe 10 sub accounts with us, each sub account is going to have its own unique tracking code. And where should it go on your page? Now, we would always recommend to put it in the head tag. And really that's going to be so that the swapping is invisible to the human eye. If we put the code inside the body tag or in the footer tag, it's not the end of the world, but what might happen is it might be a little delayed in the swapping, which can look a little bit spammy if you see number swap. And you obviously want to establish trust with your clients or the visitors coming to your site. So by putting it in the head tag, really just as high up on the page as you can get, it's going to make it invisible to the human eye. Okay. It works by cookies. So the default cookie duration is 30 days. One of the things that I would always recommend is to have your cookies between your different platforms. I don't know, I'm having a hard time talking today. Between your different platforms lined up. So if your analytics is set for 90 days and your ads is set for 90 days, you might want to adjust our cookie to 90 days, just so that all that tracking is in line so they'll stay consistent. So with images, we cannot swap phone numbers in images. By default, we can't do that. If you do have a custom, if you do have a developer handy in your company, we do have instructions for how you could do that. It would require some extra setup, but think of images as flat, so we can't read that flat image, so we wouldn't be able to identify that phone number in it. So the tracking code is also going to determine the match type. So is this, phone match or exact match? And again, exact match is only really needed for special formats. It's also going to identify the attribution. So should we be showing a number from the first way they came in? Should we be showing it for, the most recent way they came in? The tracking code is really what fuels and powers all of that. Okay, so into our second part here, which we're going to talk about porting. Porting is the process of moving numbers from one carrier to another. And this is my last little video for today, which really helps explain the porting process. So let's take a look at that.
Welcome to Call Tracking Metrics Guide to Porting. Try to always contact your current carrier to discuss their port away process. Ask them for CSRs for each number. Numbers can have different addresses even in the same account. You will need 2 documents to begin the port process: an LOA and proof of ownership. This can be a bill, screenshot of phone numbers, or a Google Unlock screen. Go to our port numbers page and fill out the form there. Accept our terms to be charged for the first month's fee. Sign the LOA and upload your proof of ownership. You will receive updates along the way that will be delivered to the email address of the user that entered the port, as well as in the notes section of the port page. A few reasons a port can be rejected are missing PIN and account number, wrong address, wrong signer or business name. For all rejections, please contact your current carrier. An email will be sent to the user that entered the port with the scheduled port date. On this date, the port will complete at 10 a.m. Pacific. At this time, please test your number.
All right. So again, porting is the process of taking numbers between providers. So if you're coming from a competitor of ours, it would be, moving, you could keep your pre-existing numbers and bring them into our system. So porting can take up to 4 weeks. Really what takes the longest with porting is that it is a paperwork process. And it's not very forgiving. So it's best to be very thorough and make sure you've checked every box. It's a legal exchange moving numbers around. So we actually have a full team dedicated to helping port numbers. So if you actually go to our porting section, we'll walk you through it, and then you'll get an email right away, I believe, from our porting team who will help you through that whole process. So next we're going to talk about buying numbers, and we're going to look at how to search for them by country, local, toll-free, things like that. We're going to define vanity numbers and look at how we can request custom ones. Which is going to be how to place a special order. So with that, let's not do the quiz. Let's switch screens again to the CTM. One second, switch to my empty account. There we go. There we go. So this is an account that I started this morning. As you can see, it's completely empty. If I go to, not by numbers, but if I go to tracking numbers, it's actually going to redirect me. Nope, it's just going to show blank. So starting fresh. So we can come here and hit by numbers, or we can actually come to the navigation and select it. So the first thing you want to do when you're purchasing numbers is you to make sure you have your proper country selected. We do have numbers available in like at least 70 different countries. One of the things to note about number purchasing is that every country and each plan that we offer has different rates. So the numbers, the price that you see here might be different on my screen than it would be for your account. If I come here, it will actually show me that I'm on the contact center plan. So this is reflecting the contact center plan price for phone numbers. Now, let's see, I believe the UK, it's just slightly more expensive, but it does vary by country. I'm trying to think, see what a France number goes for. Yeah, see, just about the same price. So let's go back. So here, if we just come, it's going to give us, just random phone numbers, but obviously we can drill down on this. So we could select, our area codes. So CallTrackingMetrics, we're located in Turner Park, Maryland, which is just right outside of Annapolis. So I might type in 410 because that is our standard right here, and then tell it to search. So then it's going to give me a list of all the different 410 numbers that we have available. I think by default, it does 5 pages. If you are actually looking to buy 400 numbers at a time, if you were to buy all of them, it would just reload more as long as we have them available. And we do constantly get numbers replenished. So if you're looking for something and maybe we don't have 410s, you could check out some of the other Maryland ones. Maybe I want a 443. We're going to tell you, is this text message capable? Is it eligible to be HIPAA compliant? Yes. And when it comes to adding the numbers, it works just like any other shopping cart, right? So I can just click it and it's going to come sit over here, and it's not actually going to purchase until I hit confirm and purchase. So that can sit here. We can search by toll free. So these are going to be our local numbers. And then over here, we have our tab for toll free. Again, I could just hit search and it's going to give me any prefix. So this is just a random assortment of what we have available. Now, toll-free numbers are a little bit more expensive, but say you had your heart set on an 888, we can search. Oh no, we don't have any. But we have some 877s. Again, these are constantly replenished. So if you're not seeing them here today, they might show up tomorrow. One of the things that I recommend, or it's kind of like a rule of thumb, is when it comes to purchasing toll-free numbers, it's not actually removing them out of stock until you hit confirm and purchase. So with the local numbers, it doesn't hurt to kind of have them sit here. They're not as high demand, so people aren't necessarily buying them from underneath you. But with 800 numbers, we've seen if I'm leave these here and then I go make a sandwich, if I come back, somebody may have bought these numbers because I didn't hit purchase. So it doesn't remove them from inventory until you hit confirm and purchase. Not so important with locals, but with toll-frees, they definitely tend to go quicker. We do occasionally get true 800 numbers in. They really sell like hotcakes or whatever the sayings are. They fly off the shelves. So if you don't see them here, it's don't worry. We have a number request form. Yes, leave. It's like don't abandon your shopping cart. So I could fill this out. And then what's really best, I think it's because I'm zoomed in so much, it's looking wonky. Is to be very descriptive of what type of number you're looking for. Maybe you just want, a true 800. No problem. We actually have a team that also handles these. It's like they just go out and hunt and find the numbers you're looking for. This is also a great place to request a vanity number. I think the example we saw earlier was like 1-800-CARS. There's a ton of different resources out there. And again, we have a team that will go find them for you. So when it comes to requesting them, it's really best to be as detailed as possible in your description. I've actually talked to our reporting team, our reporting and number request team, and they're like, you would be surprised how many people say they want an attractive number. They don't know what that is. So if you could say, I want, it's to end in 4 zeros, or, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or something like that. The more detail you can give them, the higher the likelihood is that they're going to be able to find that number in a timely turnaround. So, and there's no fee for requesting them. Depending on where they get the numbers, what type of number it is, it might be at a higher rate, but it really depends on what you're looking for. So that is how you can request a number, and this is how we can go in and buy numbers. So let's see, you can also search by address. This is really, I think, mainly used for our Canadian neighbors, because for them, it's really important that the numbers they get are under the correct rate center. There's actually, I think, like 2 places in the US where this still applies. But if you need to make sure that those phone numbers you're purchasing are under a certain rate center, you can search by, an address. Or you could search for a number that is, similar to another number. So lots of different ways that we can search for tracking numbers. Okay, so with that, we're going to switch gears and actually do, I'm going to go in, I'm going to purchase 2 numbers, I'm going to create some tracking sources, receiving numbers, and we're going to do the full setup. Now, I personally, this is my way I like to do it. I like to set up the target number first, and the receiving number and the sources, so that way when I buy the numbers, I can just very easily assign everything. So as soon as the numbers are purchased, I can assign everything to them so that they're always set up properly. So for this, I'm going to call my website number, and I'm going to put that in here. In this case, I'm just going to make it the truest 800 number, which I obviously don't own, but it will work. Now, what I'm going to do to actually demonstrate the swapping is I'm going to use unbounce to show how this, you can put a number on a page and show it swap. So if I come to pages, I'm going to say create new. Oh, of course, it logged me out. And then I have to 2-factor. 1 second. Again, I'm using unbounce just as an easy way to illustrate the swapping. You could use, WordPress or wherever you're building your pages. So I'm going to pick, this one's usually my favorite template. Call this Summer 2020 and start with this template. So what I want to do is make sure that my target number is visible on this page. So in this case, I just wanted to make sure that we have the same number. And there we go. And I'm going to do that just to make it, whoop, missing. There we go. And save. Let me go to my overview. So I'm going to publish this. Go publish. My beautiful page. This is a little thing I nerd out about with Unbounce. They do hyperspace. So I'm going to paste this into the chat so everyone can see the beautiful page. And then let me come here. And there's my beautiful page with my phone number, my little moving boats. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is come back here. I've got my target number, so we know that this number matches the number of my web page that I'm going to want to replace. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my receiving number. So I'm going to make it this, and then I'm going to call that the direct line. So I know that where I'll be pointing it. There we go. So the next thing I want to do is actually build my tracking sources. In this case, I'm just going to do 2 presets, make it real simple. Now, because I didn't have any, it defaulted dropping me in here. So I'm going to do Google Ads. So it's going to name it, set it to on site, and then set that up, hit save. And then I'm going to create another one from a preset. Now this one, I'm going to do website. It's kind of like a wild card. What it's going to do is actually swap for every way that people come to your site. So it's like a capture-all. So I want to swap for my Google Ads, but I also want to track all the calls to my website, but it's not as important where they came from. So with this, it's just going to say .star for both referring and landing page, which just means it's going to swap. So we'll hit save here. If I follow my breadcrumb back, I can see I have my 2 numbers I should be swapping for, or my 2 sources. I have my Google in position 1 and website in position 1000. Okay, so now I should have those in line. The next thing I need to do is go ahead and buy my numbers. Let's see, so I'm gonna go with 410. Hit search. Really doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to grab the first one I see. Just so I can see the difference, I'm going to make my other one 301. There we go. So I have my 2 numbers in my shopping cart, and then I'll hit confirm and purchase. It's going to tell me what my total cost is going to be. And there's also going to be this test dialed numbers. What's going to happen with this is our system is going to place a test call to both of those numbers kind of in the back. You won't see it happen, but just to make sure that they work. If it detects any issues with those numbers, it's not going to sell them to you. So it's a nice little safeguard. So I would recommend leaving that on. And then we'll say process my order. Here we go. So we have the option to purchase more numbers, or I can go ahead and hit configure. So this is why I prefer to set everything up beforehand. So now I actually have my options. So this is my receiving number where I want it to ring. This is going to be applied to all. So imagine that I just bought, say, 50 numbers. This would be a clear, it would just fill them all in to make it real easy. Now I'm going to name this one Google Ads, and I'm going to name this one website. It's just putting a label to the number. And then when I come here, I'll put Google, and there we go. And then my website source. And then my target number again, so I had everything already pre-configured. So now I will hit save and continue, and then everything will be set up. We're going to talk about the call settings tomorrow, but by default, it is going to take you here, which again, we're going to view tomorrow. So I'm going to hop over that right now. So I'm going to head back to the tracking numbers, and this is going to give me a really nice view where I can see my 2 different tracking numbers, the sources assigned to them. I know where they're going to ring, and then I know what number they should be swapping for. So now I have my web page. Now I'm not seeing the number swap because I didn't do one very critical step here. I didn't put in our tracking code yet. So to do that, I would head down here, grab my tracking code, and this is unique to my account. Grab that, and then I'm gonna go put this on my page. So inside of Unbounce, it's pretty simple, paste it in, want to go in the head, CTM code. Hit done, save, and republish. So when testing the swapping, you always want to do it in a private or incognito browser, because what that's going to do is it's going to eliminate the cookies because we have our different attribution models. So I'm going to prompt that, and then I'm going to paste it in. And if all goes well, we should see some swapping. Ta-da! So now we have our 410 number. So if I were to come back here, go to numbers, tracking numbers. I know that my 410 is my website number because I didn't come from a Google ad. Now what I can do is I can trick the browser into thinking that I'm a Google session. So in order to do that, I'm going to bring up my incognito, and I'm going to do question mark GCLID equals test. And then this should show me the 301 number. So let's check it out. And boom. So now if I were to call this number, which I will, we'll see that come up inside of CTM. So let me actually dial it. And everyone feel free to do the test the swapping. I did put that link in the chat. Oh, I see somebody typed in, can you swap a number for itself just to catch the session information? Yeah, absolutely. It's not necessarily in our best practices to do that, but we do have a handful of clients that utilize that. If you are going to go down that route, I would recommend using the website source. 82, okay, so I have my number and I'm going to call it, and we can watch that call come into CTM. Let me see, it said my number wasn't set up. Maybe I dialed it wrong. 982. Oh, I did do it wrong. 889, not. There we go. There we go. So it got both of my calls. So you can see the call. My earbud fell out. The call's coming in. Here I can actually see this one's in progress ringing. We have our soft phone. I could actually pop that out where we can have it ring to. But here we can see this is the caller, the source it's assigned to. Here it's going to tell me how confident it was that it was this caller or this session. If I click in, I can actually see, you know, this was my session. I did the GCLID equals test. It knows that it was an unbounced page. It can tell me that I was on a Mac. Give you the location. So tell you a lot of information about the caller just at first glance. So it's great as it did successfully work. We covered a lot of information today in just over an hour. So again, we talked about the tracking number. We talked about the target number, which is going to be your number on your website that we're swapping for. We talked about the tracking code. We talked about tracking sources, how we have our presets, as well as we have, you can make your own custom ones. We talked about the likelihood score. So we talked about buying the numbers, how to request special numbers. So we did a lot today, and we have so much more to cover. So not today, but tomorrow. So for tomorrow's class, we're going to get into the call settings groups. We're going to talk about some different routing options, some voice menus. We're going to talk about schedules tomorrow. And we're really going to take a deep dive into the call log navigation. So we're going to discuss what each of the different columns mean and how we can customize them. So with that, let me see if we have any questions. Let me see. Looks like I have a few. Let's see. Somebody had to bail. The page keeps talking about onboarding. Yeah, so somebody was asking about having a consultant help them with their account. That's definitely something that we have. We have a whole professional services team. We have our standard help, and free on all plan. We have 12-hour. We're East Coast, so it's from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can call them, you can chat with our support team. Or you can create a ticket. But if you did want someone to actually go in as someone from our team and build things and audit your account, that is a service we have under professional services, which I don't really ever look at these. Is there a... Yeah, you could fill out this form and somebody would contact you about setting that up. So let me send you this link in case I sent you the wrong one. Set that privately and I'll put it in chat as well. But yeah, we absolutely have people that will help you through it. They'll audit your account. We're very honest. We do what's best for the customer. I've helped out with some of those before, and sometimes I look at people's accounts and I'm like, whoa, you have like 300 numbers extra than you need. And we'll be honest to let you know that you didn't need those numbers, or maybe you need a bunch more numbers. But yeah, so that does conclude our presentation for today. Let me see if I have any other questions. Nope, doesn't look like. People are asking about the recording. So again, if we go to the Help Center, pop that on a separate one. We do have a recording of all of our webinars. This is today's. There is one already uploaded. I'll try to get the new video from today uploaded by the end of the day. You could watch it here. Also, this is updated to this slide deck. And this would actually talk about testing D&I using Instapage. The reason I did Instapage is they have a free 14-day trial that doesn't require credit cards. So if you don't have an environment where you can test the swapping, this is a nice free something you can utilize. And then this will actually walk you through step by step what we did with purchasing numbers. This is in the old nav though. I guess I need to update this doc to be at the new navigation, but it will walk you through purchasing numbers, setting up target numbers, the whole shebang. So it all is there. All right, so I'm not seeing more questions coming in. So thank you all for attending. Thank you for the engagement today. I think we had a great crowd. And I hope to see everyone tomorrow.